there's a lot going on right now in the world. You're causing most of it, so I thought it was a good time to sit down and talk. But before we get into the nitty gritty of it, I mean, a lot's been going on. Most people have been trying to hang on during the pandemic, and you're trying to take over the world. So, I mean, how are you doing personally? I mean, this is between the stress of the pandemic and all the stuff you guys are doing, this has got to be a little hard for you.
Well, thank you. I think, like any successful business, you can only go as hard and as fast as your team is capable of going. Probably one of the big, I think, kind of benefits that we have, and one of the real things I maybe have the greatest pride in is both the size of the team at Hagerty and the quality of the people that come our way to help us actualize all of this stuff. So, we do have a big vision for where we're trying to go and how we think about the whole automotive world going forward. But it's only scales as much as the people working on it can. So, I'm proud of what we're doing. We are doing a lot, and there are days, I guess, when I'm thinking like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah, I know a lot of your people, and they're like ducks. They look pretty calm on top, but they're paddling pretty hard. There's a lot going on.
They are.
So, all right, I've known and worked with you a long time. Was this a grand plan to get Hagerty to its current level, or has this been something you just dreamed up more recently?
I think historically, the way I'd answer the question is people would say, well, how big do you want to be? That's a pretty typical question to ask somebody who sees a growing business, an entrepreneur growing a business. And so for me, it's been, really this contemplation, 25, 30-year contemplation of how big can we be and what can we be in this whole world? And, the car world has been really good to me personally. And, I've been able to meet people like you and a lot of the great folks that you and I have gotten to know. And there's some great organizations out there, great parts of it, but not a lot of larger professional organizations, more like a lot of, kind of an ecosystem, great group of, strong entrepreneurs. But my view was, okay, what's it really going to take to knit more of this together so that it has a really sustainable future that can survive pandemics and can survive changing, trends and preferences around the automobile. And that is going to take, at least one or two or a few more larger companies to help make that happen. And that's what we're trying to build.
So what we see today then really, I mean, I know in 95, you came back on board as a marketing person. You weren't the CEO until 2000. So this bigger picture that we see today was the seeds were planted back in 95. That was your idea how to market an insurance company.
My mom and dad started the wooden boat insurance business in 1984 out of the basement of the house I grew up in. It also happened to be the same year that I started my first business, which was an apple orchard outside the house. So two businesses started that year, the insurance business and the apple orchard business, and the insurance business is doing just fine. The apple business is long gone. But, there was this rapid period of, real hands-on growth. Mom and dad, a few other employees kind of working in the basement of the house, eventually had an office. My sisters and I, my two older sisters and I kind of always worked around the business, kind of like families do, just helping out, maybe going to a boat show, doing stuff. But it wasn't until the early 90s that we had a bunch of our early wooden boat customers who also had cars who came to us and said, gosh, we really like you guys. You're kind of Midwestern. You're nice to us. What would you think about getting into the car insurance business? And we stumbled into that in the early 90s. It was very hard. It was much more difficult than the boat insurance world because of regulation and just state stuff on an insurance side. And we almost shut it down. We seriously thought about shutting it down in 1994. It was just too hard, not making any money. And then in 1995, I came back, kind of dropped out of my doctoral program in philosophy and said, what if we really thought about this differently? What if we started thinking about us more like a club, a lifestyle community, less about selling insurance and really start treating people like intelligent human beings who just love cars? So we changed our whole approach in the 90s. And suddenly the thing that we almost shut down started showing real traction. When people talk about a lot of the stuff that's coming together right now, I describe it. I said, yeah, but the seeds of that conversation are 25, 30 years old. I've just it's countless dinners and coffees and beers and all the stuff that you do out on the car world, just kind of working its way forward. I kind of feel like, it's people kind of say, wow, it looks like this overnight success. It's just been decades in the making.
Yeah, I've heard that too. It annoys me. Yeah, I've logged a lot of miles to car events too, and people don't remember that kind of stuff, right?
Oh man, I can't tell you the number of like literally sets of tires we burned through in these Suburbans we had back in the day, just going to car events and setting up booths and having them blow away in rainstorms and it's just been easy. I tell all these young employees that look the way it is now, it's like, oh yeah, don't worry. It's been super easy the whole time.
The Hagerty Youth Judging Program, your program to teach kids to drive stick, and other youth-oriented initiatives have been some of your favorite projects. How would you rate the success of these programs, and what have been the biggest obstacles?
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, it started, back, for me, I've been deeply passionate about the kind of impact side of what we do, not just at Hagerty, but, you and I, everybody, like we all talk about the next generation, but do we really put our, money where our mouth is? And, we realized that the only way this thing survives, especially in an era when people are worried about whether young people are going to be interested in cars at all, is that we have to stop just putting cars behind velvet ropes. We have to stop making these things, so expensive and unobtainable. We really got to get young people with their hands on them, because every single serious car person that I knew usually had some story that they had to, reach out and start themselves getting involved in the car world some way. And, it shouldn't be accidental. So the car, from the beginning, it was youth judging programs at car events. We've done model building competitions and design competitions and, all of these different things, the manual transmission training, we call the driver's experiences. So much of what it took early on was to get events out there to let us run the program, is to say, let's, alongside your concours judges, let's put a team of, kids out there looking at cars, and don't worry, we'll find the cars to judge. A car might get a fingerprint on it, and we'll rub the fingerprint off. We can make this work. It's not that big of a deal. And those are my proudest moments, when those things all come together. But it did take a while, to really kind of break down this barrier where, car people who have their precious view of their car, but it becomes too precious, and they just don't want people to, they don't want kids sitting on the seats. They don't want a blade of grass on the floor mats. And, we got to teach them that they're just cars.
Yeah.
And we got to get kids around them. So yeah, probably those have been the biggest obstacles, and, but we'll do as many of them as we can. And thousands of kids have participated. So we're really proud of it.
I understand your deeper dive into the classic car world, but recently you've moved over to motorsports. What are your ultimate plans there? I mean, that move to motorsports surprised me. I was like, yeah, they'll never be interested in motorsports.
Yeah, well, I can tell you certainly from the early days, just being only in insurance, racing scared the pants off of me. Not me personally, but just, insuring race cars.
Bad idea.
And for good reason, exactly what I'm thinking. But, and nevertheless, we sponsored a lot of, vintage motorsport events, and had, sort of nominal presence at events like, say, the Monterey Historics or wherever. But then, I had this real aha moment back in 2017, which was I had a guy at a big conference tell me he was going to put me out of business because cars are going away. Cars driven by human beings are going away. And the problem wasn't that I didn't, I thought he was kind of full of it. And I know that cars aren't going away anytime soon, and driving isn't going away, but I didn't have a quick answer. I didn't have that, kind of snappy repartee that I wish I had at the moment. And our, we spent a couple of years working on this vision of that, we need to save driving and car culture. And, it's not, what we're not trying to save is the 4-hour commute on the 405 in LA. We're trying to save, the fun of the pleasure drive and the tours like you've created so many of them. And as well as the higher skilled aspect of driving, which is, high performance driving and racing. So, started partnering with a number of the big sanctioning bodies, working with individual tracks, doing all of this because it's really part of our ecosystem. And I think one of the things that surprised me, and you probably know the stats better than I do, is that, even in some of the racing organizations, racing clubs, fewer and fewer of their members are actually racing anymore. There are some who seriously race, and we're big fans of that. But a lot of people just, they like doing the autocrossing. They like doing the driving schools. They just kind of want to keep their skills honed. They view the opportunity of being on a track as a safer way of driving fast, which we agree with. The old days of, even journalists going out and flogging, the latest high performance car on a public roadway, probably not a good idea anymore.
Good idea.
And, the modern cars are so fast, and the edge of performance is so far out there that, we're a big fan of getting people some training to learn to drive better. And so it was a natural fit for us. I mean, we're not going into the professional motorsports side. This is all about the amateur side of it and the fun of driving, but driving with a little bit more skill.
You recently bought the Amelia Island Concours. How long have you been dreaming of buying Amelia? I mean, that's, all this stuff's a big deal, but buying Amelia is a big deal. And I know we talked about it a couple of years ago. Is this kind of an opportunity? I mean, I know Bill is getting on in years and was looking kind of for what was going to happen next. So, or is this something you thought of 30 years ago?
Well, when we think again, back to our idea of the purpose, and we attend or sponsor over 2,500 car events a year on an annual basis. Now, COVID year being the exception. And, I personally attend a lot of the big events here and around the world. I have a few that I go to every year and a few that I rotate around because I think it's important for me to see. And what I saw when you see these great events, even in Amelia Island Concours, or the other, think of the other events that we've also acquired, Greenwich Concours, Concours of America in the Detroit area, California Melee, is that they're really cool and they're a big part of our car culture. But in reality, the actual business in there, they're pretty small organizations, and they're really highly dependent on just a few people. And lots of people have been talking for years, having concern for what happens after Bill Warner, because I'm not sure I can think of any event that has had more imprint of a single individual than Bill Warner. Just to wrestle that thing out of the ground, for 30 years, and to do it so consistently and so well for so long. But, even though he has a great team who are now part of the Hagerty team, Bill had a big impact. And so, it was a long dialogue with him, thinking about the future, really wanting to honor the unique features of what Amelia Island has become through the years. And then creating a model for him to, help us in a transitionary period and to take it over. So it's a big deal. It was a big deal. And what we hope everybody finds is that we're going to keep the character of these things, especially the geography, the, times of year, generally, all of that kind of thing. But then some of the upgrades I think we'll be able to do on these events are going to be, initially we'll kind of feel behind the scenes, ticketing, IT, safety and security, just sort of some of those types of things. Our ability to negotiate with big hotels and vendors and things is probably a little different than the kind of one-off that you see at these shows. So yeah, we didn't take the decision lightly. Right now, my wife soon, hates my guts. Like, can we just slow down a little bit? But we're all excited about it, and I can't wait to see the first Amelia under our leadership next March. And I think immediately, hopefully, people see some of the cool things that we'll be doing there, but recognize that it's still Amelia.
Yeah, I know both the event and Bill very well, and I can't wait to see you try to get him to back off a little bit.
Yeah, call him. No, Bill's been lovely. He's been really lovely. So
no, he's just so passionate about it. I'm sure he'll stay involved somewhat. So do you have a long-term strategy as how all these entities you are buying fit together, or was it more just kind of answering the door when opportunity knocked? Assuming there's a cohesive strategy, can you share some of it?
Yeah, we have, I'm a big fan of, thinking about the business like a flywheel, right? And it's not multiple businesses, it's one big flywheel, and each part of the flywheel need to kind of make it spin faster and faster. So, for us, obviously we've had a long-term effort in the media space. So our magazine publishing, all of our digital stuff, valuation, all of those things just kind of help push the flywheel faster. Events too, whether we're attending an event that someone else owns as a sponsor, just a vendor, or whether we own the event or are creating it, it's all meant to, kind of drive this love of the automobile and to create value for people. And yeah, so they all kind of fit together. When you think about it, you just have to have the capabilities of running it all, just like running an international business, just like the different pieces of our insurance ecosystem. Which, and insurance isn't much fun to talk about if you're a car person. It's necessary, but that's still there. And, an awful lot of our 1,700 employees are, working pretty diligently on that. But, we just announced a huge partnership a couple of weeks ago with State Farm. We work with most of the top 25 insurance companies right now. So when somebody with one of these cars comes in, their door, it comes over to us to help service the insurance side, but then we're bringing them into our membership ecosystem, the Hagerty Drivers Club. And same thing with State Farm. State Farm is a huge company, really good at some of the things that they do, but they recognize this, this small group of their tens of millions of customers actually like cars. And it's not just about saving money on them. It's about, really wanting to engage with those cars. So that'll be hundreds of thousands of new people coming into our world. Hundreds of thousands of people we're going to be able to introduce to some of these events and some of our other properties. So, right now it's, almost a couple million people in our ecosystem. That's going to double in 36 months. And that's a lot of people to knit together. And, but it kind of serves that larger purpose, save driving a car culture and build a business to do it.
So you now have 3 concours events. Are you going to try to have 6 or 7? So you've got one in each market, and then you can kind of sell sponsorship on a national level rather than on a regional level, or both?
Yeah, that is contemplated, it's got to be the right property, the right geography, but, and thank you for recognizing that, a part of these car shows.
That's the way I would do it.
Right. Well, and that's, it's what we're looking at. It's interesting you mentioned the sponsors. It's something that a lot of, the typical car person may or may not think about it this way, but, when you're, big car company X that you really wish would come to your car event, it's tough for you as an owner of an individual show to go and find the marketing person and convince them that they should spend some of their budget. And by the way, everybody else from every other car show is also contacting them. So, a big part of our strategy, having been on the other side of that, being sold sponsorships rather than selling them, is that, with a few more events, our ability to kind of create a package to say, look, I can sell you a 5-event package. We can do, ads in the magazine. We can do digital properties for you. And for that, would you be willing to, do some really unique stuff for our members, whether it's unique new access to a new vehicle, whether it's some other kind of cool experience, maybe with a designer or executives from the company. It creates more value for the sponsor. And I know a lot of people, just normal everyday car people don't think about that, but, sponsors and car companies are trying to grow too. They're not there just for you. They're there for them. It's their business when they show up that day. And, we can all get wrapped up in charitable efforts and, my gosh, we just got to get more money out of these big car companies. Well, they have to sell stuff. And what they sell is cars. Yeah. And, for all of you who, are out there watching this, like, our job is to help those car companies sell more cars, not just to take money so you can, give it to a charity or do whatever. And, what we feel is that, us having a group of these things and having these other assets is that we can be better partners with those sponsors and then in turn create more value for our members.
As is common in corporate acquisitions, you seem to be leaving staff and operations as they are. What can staff at these entities and attendees expect in the short term and the long term? I mean, it's logical you leave things alone for the first year, but
our strategy always is, whenever we go in and acquire one of these businesses, is that everybody who's there has an opportunity to continue doing, their work and part of other work. Cool thing with some of these events is that we're now able to involve some of them in some of the other events. They're not just working on one, they're working on multiple, it's growth opportunities for them. And every single one of them, who buys into, our strategy and our way of thinking about, grow yourself, you can grow your team, you can grow a business, then they'll be a happy person. If it's somebody who thinks they're going to go just do the same thing year over year, they probably won't like the pace. They'll probably self-select out, would be my guess, but everybody has a chance to be part of our team.
So let's talk about taking the company public, your big news, which is great for me because I've always wanted to buy Hagerty. So now I can buy Hagerty instead of, you guys buying everybody, right?
Yeah.
So,
awesome. Welcome.
And I think as soon as we buy a share, we'll be able to have this big press release where we announce a merger with our company and Hagerty. But so can you explain the strategy and background for taking the company public? I mean, how much is enough,
Yeah, well, a couple things, I guess I'd probably been asked for years, again, decades for sure. People just said, well, you're just going to grow this and sell it. Is that the plan? Isn't one of these big insurance companies just going to buy you or somebody else? Well, sure. I've had a lot of those conversations through the years. But we were also a closely held family business until just a couple of years ago. And we did do a minority capital raise a couple of years ago. I had two older sisters, needed to do a little estate planning. And also we want to put some more capital to work in the business rather than to just borrow the money. The unique nature of insurance is that you have to be careful with carrying too much debt. You gotta be really solvent. You got to have a strong balance sheet. So for us, it was a great way to go. And it really proved that we could go more. And as I started seeing a lot of these big partnerships coming on board, a lot of our growth prospects that I felt a lot of confidence in, I had a thought that we might go public at some point, but I figured it'd be kind of like 3 to 5 years from now, call it 2025, 2026, based on kind of how he was viewing it. The process that we went through here, which was to merge with the SPAC, and I won't go into the technical pieces of it, is a great way for a well-run, substantial enough, closely held or family business to go public. Because, if you ever read about it, IPOs are tough. They're long, they're very expensive, and they're not guaranteed that the company gets the most benefit of it. In a traditional IPO, very often the benefit of the IPO goes to the early investors and not to the company itself. And so when I started learning about it and went through a very careful process to do it, I realized, wow, best possible world. We get to go forward controlling the business. We get to raise some capital. We get to get access to the capital markets, the ability to have, the benefit of, that further growth capital really started making a lot of sense to me. And so ran a very careful process. At any given time, if it didn't look like it was going to work, we could have stopped. And we ended up finding a great partner in Aldell, Rob Kaufman, well-known car guy, wonderful car collection, as our partner. And we've had huge amounts of interest from the investment community and all of that. And, looking to close right around Thanksgiving, first part of December, and we'll be up and running and, trading on the New York Stock Exchange as HGTY.
Well, I'm certainly going to buy some shares. But a privately held company has different rules than a public company. I mean, ultimately, your profitability for your shareholders becomes the number one thing. You think that will change?
No way. No way. Our growth is to create value for our members and to stick to our purpose of saving, driving, and car culture. So, we've been a regulated business underneath all of this for a lot of years. I've had an independent board of directors for 15 years. We have all of the, audit processes and all of the kind of outside imprimatur stuff now. So the only difference now is that quarterly, we're going to talk publicly about our numbers, but we're still going to plan and think long-term, period, about our members, creating long-term value. And it's the only way I agreed to do this going forward, is that we could consider it. So yeah, we're never going to start thinking quarterly or acting quarterly. That's just a lagging indicator. We're going to stick to our mission, bringing in more car people into our world and creating more value.
So as a result of this IPO, where do you see Hagerty in, say, 10 years?
You probably see us in doing a few more things than we're doing now. Insurance is still a big part of what we do. Media, entertainment, these events will continue being things that we do. For sure, there will be some further international expansion. That's already contemplated for 2023, 24. continue to grow in some of these other businesses that we've invested in, a couple that, we haven't talked about, but that are fun to think about. We have a series of storage clubhouse locations called Hagerty Garage and Social. So we'll have 5 of them, the close of this year, 10 over the next couple. The idea is if those go well, we'd expand those quite a bit further to be a real network of storage facilities and clubhouses, think kind of like Soho House. So if you're a member in Miami and you're in LA and you want to go, visit the LA clubhouse, you could go, or, book a conference room, or, have a party there, that kind of thing. Businesses like DriveShare, which we bought, a peer-to-peer rental business. It's there, but we haven't been investing in it in the way that I think we should be. So more of those types of things. Our motorsport efforts, you pointed some of them out, but one we didn't talk about is, we acquired a company a couple of years ago called Motorsport Reg, MSR, and they're really one of the leading motorsport registration processes. So probably a lot of the track nights that, you and I've talked about, track days, racing events, you probably used MSR and may not have even known it.
Yeah, we use them for registering some of our events. We know them, Brian. We've known him for years. Yeah,
absolutely. So Brian's part of our team, and he's helping create a whole platform of other event technologies for events to be able to, more efficiently operate their business on. Really be an enabler of other people's commerce. So there'll just be more of that kind of thing, having more fun, more partnerships. So. And hopefully we'll get a chance to, drive and have a little bit of fun along the way too.
So you published some numbers. I don't know if they're public, but as to the ultimate size of the market. And I was pretty blown away with what you published. Can you talk a little bit about what the overall size of this market is and how it compares to some of the other stuff like skiing or surfing or outdoors?
Sure. Yeah, this is all in our public documents, and this is all like really carefully researched information. When we look at like our target market just in North America, so US and Canada, not talking about outside the United States, there are 43 million vehicles that fall in our target zone. And when I had ever, like back of a cocktail napkin or envelope, tried to calculate how big I thought the car world, what I would do is, you'd add together all the car magazines and all the viewers of car shows, and you'd add together everything you thought were a club member, and you'd land somewhere in the single digit millions.
Yeah.
That's where you land. You do not land at 40.
Don't land at 43 million.
No way.
Yeah.
And so this was all, we started acquiring some very, very large data sets. We have a lot of data scientists working for us. We created a patented serial number decoder to be able to go look at these, these are multi-billion point data sets of vehicles that, because they're serialized and not VIN numbers, it's like garbage data for anybody else, but it's not garbage data for us because we could start kind of looking at it. Okay. And now we can locate, these vehicles down to the county. So we started looking at a lot of these big data sets and realized, wait a minute, there are a lot more of these vehicles out there, and they're just kind of falling through the cracks of the traditional car world. And I'll give you an example. Fox-bodied Mustangs, 1977 to 1990. There's still almost 800,000 of them registered in the United States today. So, I had one of these things in college, by the way. I love the thing.
So
drove wheels off it out in Malibu. I kept having to ask my dad for more tire money about every semester, but that's another story. 800,000 of them. So, it's a 15 grand car, 11 grand car, maybe 20 something for most of them. And it may not be, a Ferrari or something that's really fancy for somebody, but that's somebody's pride and joy. And it's parked inside in a garage, goes out on a sunny day, and it's their fun to drive car. And those are our people. And so our job is to find them and to knit it together. So yeah, those are real numbers. And, the challenge is that the traditional automotive media has been kind of, downtrodden. I don't know how to put it any other way. It's been a rough decade for traditional automotive media. As the shift to digital and the shift to different kind of platforms has made it harder for the traditional magazines and others to continue to reach those very large audience groups anymore. So, for us, it's about how we're going to get to them, and that's hopefully where our model works well.
That's why we're doing a video interview and not a print interview, although our print circulation's at record levels. But yes, there are two kind of media companies, those that adapted and those that died.
That's right.
So of these 43 million, you seem to think about 3/4 of them are these post 1980 cars. And which I totally agree with you. We are seeing this coming on real strong, including these Fox Mustangs, which were what we called trailer park cars 10 years ago, and now are hugely collectible by a big cross section of the market, and they should be because they're cool cars. But
well, you and I've talked about Miatas. What you and I did once did a panel interview, and you said, "Look, go buy a building and fill it full of inexpensive Miatas."
I just got an early Miata for that reason. I was like,
right?
I need to get one of these before they get too expensive. There's 500,000 of those. So
they built a ton of them. As I like to say, it's the greatest two-seater British sports car ever built.
All right, your corporate mantra is our purpose is to save driving and car culture for future generations. So 20 years from now, what does success look like for you?
That's a great question. 20 years from now, well, for one thing, I believe that we'll have, we're going to have an ecosystem of millions and millions of people interacting with each other, first and foremost, in a community-like format. Media and entertainment and events are going to be a big part of what that looks like. So, great events are out there. They're on a stable financial footing. Other sponsors and other partners are, actively interacting with them. And there's still this kind of vital flow of the next generation coming in, being interested in these vehicles, being able to afford certain examples. This can't just be a world of multimillionaires, that can only afford the best of the best. I think there'll be some real innovation required, during that period of time, as you see the everyday driving fleets become more electrified. Are there going to be new businesses that literally have to be created to help, keep some of these vehicles on the road, whether it's, mobile repair, mobile fuel delivery, all those types of things. That'll be evidence that these things will keep going. The converse of our purpose is what people say, or ask me all the time is, will the car go the way of the horse? And my response to that is typically to say, Henry Ford and all of his peers and competitors did not make the horse go extinct. He and all of those, companies just simply took the horse out of daily transportation, unless you're a cowboy or something. And, but yet, the horse world is, there's still really passionate followers, right? I know I've had daughters, go out and do their horseback riding lessons, and you watch the Olympics and go to a dude ranch, so for us, that's what we're trying to preserve. We just want to create that connective tissue to that future.
Yeah, I think if more and more cars become electric, then the gas powered cars will get that much more rare and valuable.
I think that's right. That's right. And I'm also, contrary to what some people say, I don't worry about it when people talk about electrifying a vintage car too. I'm not troubled by that. If they want to, thoughtfully, tastefully do that type of conversion, and that's the only way they're going to own some cool old car, great. Welcome to the club.
In conclusion, what does all this mean to me as a Hagerty customer and to me as a car guy? I mean, should we be worried, or should we be happy, or what would you say to your customers right now? And including I'm one of them. So
thank you. No, well, you're certainly going to see more of us. You're going to see us in more places doing more things. So hopefully that doesn't, intrinsically bother people to see us more, because, our goal at Hagerty is to put great people out there to do great stuff and to operate really professionally in a friendly way. So you're definitely going to see a lot more of us, and you're going to see us doing more things. So don't be surprised to read about, new things that we're working on. But I think, and this is what I've tried to tell people, even about the going public thing, is this is the best possible scenario for us. If you like what we're doing now and what we've done in the past, this is the best possible scenario for us to keep that magic going. We're gonna have more resources to do more. I'm still the CEO. My family still, controls the company. We're still going to be able to bring in great people to do great stuff. We're going to be thinking long term. So it's a great scenario, and we're just going to keep on trucking, doing these things. And if you look at, us becoming a bigger company and the way that we're kind of capitalized and structured. There've been some other, large transactions around our space is, the future of this car world is going to become a little bit more professionalized. There are going to be some other corporate entities like us out there doing things. What I hope is people keep having fun with cars. They keep sending feedback in about things that we can do better. And, because I can tell you, we listen, and that's what we do.
All right. Well, it's been nice talking to McKeel Hagerty, a longtime friend and a big part of our world. Thanks for explaining to our audience what's going on. Thanks again, and have a good week.
Hey, thanks for having me, and congratulations on all your success. I love all the stuff that you're doing. I love that you have the spirit to get out there and really do it. And, you put your money where your mouth is, and you're really out there working it. So we'll see you at the next great car event somewhere.
Yeah, for this, as soon as we get done with this, we're going to finish rebuilding a Sprite rear end and then hang a quarter panel on a car this afternoon.
All right, there you go.
I guess I am in it. See ya.
All right, see you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Support brands that support classic motorsports. Get your chemical solutions from CRC Industries. Visit crcindustries.com to learn more.